Hello everyone, Kami here, and today I'm covering a video by Alex Yard. Quick history lesson if you don't know who that is. Alex Yard used to be more known for being a niche YouTuber who talked about music theory and Sonic games, particularly the early ones. This went pretty well for him until he made the false claim that Toby didn't make fully original compositions for Undertale, implying that Toby stole stuff. From there, his fall downwards has been pretty steady, and this is just another step in that direction. I found this video due to Twitter basically calling him out for being crazy. Like, there's a screenshot of him bringing up Charlie Kirk in a reply, apparently, which is just insane. And honestly, that's not the craziest thing I've seen in relation to this video. Oh, and really quickly, here's a loud sound warning along with a shouting warning for this video, so yeah, play the intro.
Toby Fox won't translate Deltarune to your language if you speak Spanish, French, and more. The contents in between Chris's legs is not the only thing happening with this.
I'm sorry, but what a terrible introduction to this video. I get that the thumbnail and title preface this video's idea from the jump, but holy shit, I don't think that a character with the pronouns they, them should ever be talked about in the manner of talking about what's, quote, in between their legs, especially when that character is a minor. Like, just think for a second about how weird that sounds coming out of someone's mouth when talking about a minor.
In the now infamous Latin America address. So I'm going to read an excerpt here and see if you can find the loophole in what he says. Ready? We can see Toby's statement on Blue Sky here.
I know it sucks that there's no other official translations for Undertale, but I want to make it clear that this isn't because I have a grudge against other countries. It's because if I release something official, I want it to match my vision. I was only able to do this for the Japanese version because I know Japanese myself, and I worked very closely with our brilliant translator to thoroughly check the text.
I don't have anything to say yet, but just watch how he contradicts himself in this next section coming up. It's really funny.
That's not true. Definitely not true. Just look at this. That Japan release was in 2017, after the original release in English in 2015. Now, during Undertale's development, Toby did not know the Japanese language. But even back then, he decided that he definitely wanted to do a JP translation. He went to a translator company and brought them on board, and this is all before the game even came out in English. So since Toby didn't speak Japanese, they had to work together closely to make sure that his vision was honored. The translator company was impressed because Toby was familiar with an impressive amount of stuff, considering he didn't know the language. The first game where he actually knew Japanese was in fact Deltarune Chapter 1 in 2018, and that game launched with the JP translation on day 1.
So did he know Japanese or not? You say that he both did and didn't know Japanese during this segment, so which is it? Also, for clarification, your timeline is wrong. The Japanese translation didn't start before Undertale was finished, it started after it was out, with it starting in 2016. Pretty crucial part of the timeline to get wrong, as it completely dismantles any future argument made against Toby that relies on this falsehood, so keep an eye out for that.
By that point, he had studied flashcards enough that he was comfortable to say, I know Japanese now. And I don't know if it was flashcards, or maybe webinars, or maybe immersive education where he lived and worked in Japan to speak Japanese all the time.
What the fuck is the point of this, by the way? This is entirely unnecessary for the argument you're making here, and so is the next 24 seconds where you bring up Nintendo sponsoring his Visa. It legitimately comes across like you're doing drugs or something. Anyways, if you'd done any research, you'd have known that even a translator that worked with Toby said he was familiar with the language in 2018. Just saying.
However he learned the language, by this point he could make actual artistic decisions in the choice of words in Chapter 1, instead of just stamping his approval on what the translators drafted up. So in fact, Toby decided to translate to Japanese first, and then began to study in earnest.
I told you it would dismantle his argument because he in fact did not decide to translate Undertale before releasing it. He decided to translate after releasing it. Also, this next segment is going to play for a little uninterrupted, but that's because there's necessary context I don't want to skip.
So to all the Deltarune fans out there trying to make sense of this like I am, let me ask you, would you feel differently about this Japan situation if it was instead Italy? For example, Toby Fox's wife is from Italy, and every single chapter comes out on release day with English plus Italian. So the Italian delays things longer because the translation needs time, effort, even Toby's mental energy and commitment, which is finite. Even if he had $1 billion to invest, Toby only has one brain, and he's tired on account of his wrist. People want the game in French on top of that.
So first off, why are we fan-fictioning about Toby Fox having an Italian wife when he just doesn't? That's a very weird way to establish this argument, but it gets weirder. Alex goes on to establish this like money is a problem in the equation when in reality it isn't. Toby wants to be involved with translations of his games because he wants to make sure they align with his original vision, and making sure that the text-based game translates its text correctly so as to not mess anything up is pretty crucial. Also, bringing up Toby's wrist issue is straight up weird as it has nothing to do with whatever the hell Alex is talking about. Also, something that Alex does in this nearly 2 minutes I'm skipping is him essentially writing fanfiction about Toby Fox like some kind of madman, and while I could cover it, it's a little hard to cover the ramblings of someone like that and not go insane yourself. He talks about a lot of things here that entirely relies on you having a certain perception of Toby being some kind of weird, overly obsessed weeb. Yes, it's just as stupid as it sounds. Moving on.
Toby makes love to Japan as the centerpiece of his career and legacy because it's his vortex of gaming culture and anime, Earthbound, but then he goes farther than that. He also pampers the literal customers in Japan on day one to have the most epic experience possible, tailored to the linguistics of their more obscure language, with the tingle of status and identity.
The thing about this is that while Toby does in fact enjoy the Japanese language, the rest of this statement entirely relies on speculation about who Toby Fox is as a person, and when you realize that, you realize how insane it sounds.
Well, love and tolerance is a universal language, and Toby has betrayed that. Which is why I say, Japan can wait. That's all. I'm hoping everyone watching this can co-sign, because for such a complex situation with no clear, easy solutions, Japan can wait is the most viable compromise. Because otherwise, the waiting gets shifted to everyone that was watching the Switch 2 reveal trailer.
I have a question for you, Alex. Do you have literally any evidence for your claims of delays and waiting? Because as far as I'm aware, Deltarune's 3rd and 4th chapters didn't get a confirmed release date until the Switch 2 announcement, and they actually released on that day. Just saying.
If Toby has $20,000 to just throw at a symbolic band-aid for an unrelated charity...
I'm sorry, did you just say donating $20,000 to a charity that helps disabled people is a symbolic band-aid for an unrelated charity? And that's without also mentioning the $330,000 he helped raise for Doctors Without Borders. How convenient for you, Alex. Also, I don't even think I need to comment on that because the statement alone makes you sound like an asshole.
How many translations could that have paid for? But then, to be fair, it also does involve Toby's creative energy limits. You can respect that he doesn't want to risk burning out. You know how the Undertale speedrunner Shay only pays attention to people that can provide sexual opportunities? And then if that sexual component is no longer in the picture, Shay just might ignore you. Like suddenly it feels like you don't exist. He might not say anything to you anymore. Until a hookup is back on the table. Now, with Toby, it could be a similar dynamic, not for sex, but Toby only gives respect or even attention to the people that directly benefit him and his narrow set of interests, Japan culture and music, especially if you can combine both of those things into a single contact.
What the fuck are we talking about? I don't have a funny quip or anything like that, just a legitimate question of why the fuck we're bringing up alleged pedophile Shay and comparing the things he did with Toby Fox doing a Japanese translation for Deltarune and Undertale. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you, Alex?
Shay Undertale
is allegedly a pedophile, much in the same way that this thing I'm holding in my hands is allegedly a microphone.
For Toby, participating in Japan culture directly could feel like an intoxicating drug that could consume his priorities for the next 20 years, easily. If Toby thought a school dance was a really stressful thing throughout the years in his whole life of school, his elite rise to JP relevance could be hugely cathartic, more than you could ever know. If his id takes the steering wheel, and that's the id of an otaku otacon.
Okay, I know we like waffling, but genuinely, how did we get to the point where we're crafting a conspiracy theory of Toby Fox being addicted to Japan like drugs and talking about his school dance? It's so baffling that I don't know how to critique it because it's so obviously wrong if you just think about it for more than a second. Also, why are we trying to get philosophical and talk about the id as if that has anything to do with anything? This is just insanity with pseudo-intellectualism thrown in the pot, and it makes me feel like I'm on drugs.
This tunnel vision on Japan is not the only potential reason, though, that he might object to other language translations, because the semantic implications could bring you back in between Chris's legs, as we're going to discuss now.
Once again, why are we turning a character with they-them pronouns into what's in between their legs, especially when that character is a minor? It's weird. Also, nice 2-second pause there, buddy. Think about cutting that out next time.
Take Chris, for example. Chris uses the pronouns they, them for all everyday situations. And this intentional ambiguity does have implications for shipping projects in the community, which that stands for relationshipping, where you write fanfics that pair up certain characters, like the classic examples Sans and Frisk, who go by the couple name Franz. Get it? It's like Bennifer. Or maybe Papyrus and Sans, which earn the title Fontcest because of their genetic similarities.
Okay, let's not do this bullshit, Alex. Don't try and blame Toby Fox for the gross things the community did. That's disingenuous and you know it. And don't try to deny it either, as we both know there's a reason you brought up those two ships instead of Undyne and Alphys, or Toriel and Asgore, or the many other far less problematic ships that were also prominent at the time. Also, to immediately use Chris's gender to bring up problematic ships is a really shitty move. That shit gets you a super F.
Toby encourages interpretation rather than outright confirmation. The priority is emotional intimacy with the lore, rather than confirmed labels. But even then, a lot of fans still do tunnel vision on those very labels as the main event. However, the pronoun they does not confirm that Chris is non-binary outright. And yes, I do need to calibrate that for you all because, believe me, I get comments where people just call Chris non-binary automatically. And that dissonance deepens the true canvas of what's happening in Deltarune.
If all instances of someone's gender is them being referred to using exclusively they/them as their pronouns, even when they're the only one being referred to when the word gets used, they are by definition non-binary, as they do not fall within either he or she. Also, why argue this point so strongly in a video that's supposed to be about the translation of Deltarune? That's a very weird focus to have.
High-stakes identity can crash up against language, so when Toby is thinking about translating Deltarune, maybe some languages would require him to declare sexual info at customs, in a way that's a spoiler, or it just reveals something that's not supposed to be confirmed, info that can be kept hidden in English.
Or, and hear me out on this one, it could accidentally assign a gender to a character that is supposed to be non-binary, ruining a key aspect of the story that's being told. Just a thought.
So that's one of many different landmines that could make Tobes reluctant to undertake other translations, even if he had $1 billion. A lot of fans are dying with curiosity to know which box Chris will check at customs, and they pore over every word of evidence to spot indirect clues, eager to put Chris in a box.
The language used here is very weird, as almost no one is actually speculating about these things, and the only thing that this language does is further push the idea that the character cannot be non-binary simply because you said so. It'd be one thing if you were saying this in addition to Chris being non-binary, but you're not. You're completely dismissing the non-binary part simply because you don't agree with it, which is weird at best.
But even if Chris did a sex change, Chris's chromosomes would not change. You can't change those. Even in Metal Gear Solid 4, your chromosomes are unchangeable.
This argument is very stupid because even though it's technically correct, it's like saying you and Shaquille O'Neal are the same person because you're both male. The science goes deeper than just your chromosomes, and transitioning does have legitimate effects on your body that make you different from your gender at birth and the one you transition to. Please shut the fuck up, Alex.
The Chapter 4 deflowering scene was man-coded, and Japan is set up for the male gaze after all. And it's not like we're trying to figure out Chris's specific chromosomes, but these elements are enough to affect someone's fan game. The true finale is the fan interpretations, ongoing.
Susie is very man-coded, so would you refer to her as a man? Or would you refer to her with the fucking pronouns that have been used for her entire existence as a character? Tell me, Alex. My patience grows thin.
Unless Chapter 8 has a rod reveal, which it won't. It'll be left ambiguous, just like Frisk in Undertale, probably.
Why must we refer to the private parts of a character that is a minor, Alex? Why do you care about the genitalia of a minor, Alex? Why haven't we talked about translation in over 2 minutes, Alex? What's the point of your video, Alex?
Celeste dropped a massive bombshell of chromosomes in the DLC post-credits twist, and for some fans, that's really important.
Why are we talking about Celeste, Alex? What does Madeline being trans have to do with translations, Alex?
And then the Chapter 4 Snowgrave route warned everyone about Shay, but no one heeded the caution.
What does this have to do with translating the text of a video game, Alex? What does bringing up someone who had real victims and joking about it have to do with changing text from one language to another, Alex? What purpose does that serve, Alex?
The weird route illustrates how a person can use the word they to unlock access to a new tier of intimacy with women. Toby's choice to include this subject matter could have been a commendable choice, except when Toby released it on Switch 2, he removed the shocking imagery almost immediately, based on Tumblr receipts.
What does having a close relationship with people have to do with translation, Alex? What does Tumblr have to do with translating video games, Alex? Or are you just going to plug your other videos, Alex? Sorry, let me calm down now. The rest of the video is indeed a promotion for his other video about Deltarune, which also concludes my coverage of this video, and all I have to say is that this video was abysmal dog shit. Thanks for watching. Later.